In every corner of our known world, there are stories that have cemented themselves in the minds of their people. The passing of these stories across each generation would evolve said story, becoming something like a myth or a legend for better or worse. Before we were connected, as each continent was isolated, the words of a tale held more significance and meaning because that was all you had back in the day, creating this sense of mysticism that could be felt during the ancient times. Was there a pond of immortality that Gilgamesh tried to seek out? The answer isn't exactly no, but more like, who knows? And that's what eventually leads to myths and legends. That's why they call it mythology, or just legends. Unbelievable stories of impossible feats or situations eventually becoming something revered and even believed. On the internet early on, the same effect of storytelling and evolving it into something more would continue, which we usually call urban legends. Urban legends can be traced as far back as the 60s, coined by Richard Dawson. A series of books in the 80s would cement the existence of urban legend within literature and eventually other forms of media. This series was known as The Vanishing Hitchhiker, American Urban Legends and Their Meanings, written by John Harold Brunvand. Its main point was that legends and myths didn't just exist in older times, but were still prominent to this day, and more could be given birth to with the right circumstances. And the internet would prove it, with anonymous users posting videos of strange or uncanny situations occurring across the world, or posts about something that had happened to someone that they knew. The majority of these stories are designed to spook people, to make others think twice about sleeping tonight. Some of these stories are really well told, making the world we inhabit even more uncanny and yet interesting. In horror, a term would surface, creating horrific universes supported by anonymous communities, known as creepypastas. Creepypastas provide the same function as urban myths, legends, folklore from old times, to provide a window into the impossible, or to tell someone a story that is either amazing or terrifying, or both. Many well-known creepypastas would come to life thanks to certain people and the communities that had continued and evolved their legacy afterwards. SCP, Jeff the Killer, God's Mouth, Midnight Man, Slender Man, Pen Pal, The Russian Sleep Experiment, Abandoned by Disney, The Backrooms, The Rake, and the analog horror series such as Gemini Home Entertainment, Local 58, and the Mandala Catalog. All of these have created sprawling universes that are not unlike our own, but are uncanny and unsettling in just about every way possible. But today I will be focusing more on the Backrooms, or more specifically, a game based on the Backrooms, one that is so well made and is faithful to its nightmarish and dreamlike setting. The game is called The Complex Found Footage. It is a walking sim horror game set in a sequence of liminal rooms with random formations, rooms that lack any purpose or reason for being there. You play the tape, dating 1990, and you hear the sound of someone hitting the ground, as if they had fallen off of a building and landed on the ground, or they had slipped out of their reality. And that's what the Backrooms is, falling out of reality and ending up somewhere familiar but unfamiliar at the same time. For context, the universe is more or less based off of a concept known as liminal space, which are a sequence of images devoid of life or function, but evoke a nostalgic feeling across those who have had a similar memory to it at an earlier stage in their life, without it actually existing at all, so to speak. It could be a number of things, like an old indoor playground, a diner with distinct leather and black and white tiles, or a cinema with bizarre color choices for their hallways and corridors. Liminal spaces and the Backrooms universe play with this idea, but the Backrooms itself takes it to unbelievable heights, literally, for that the various rooms that exist are pretty much infinite. The complex recreates a number of these well-known levels, its recreations being heavily inspired by a YouTuber known as Kane Pixels, one of which had popularized the trend of creating found footage videos of people being in the backrooms. With the clever use of software like Blender and After Effects, people like Kane Pixels have been able to model and even film these places that are entirely digital and yet they feel lifelike. The complex successfully replicates this feeling too. The attention to detail so far has been the best I've seen in any Backrooms game so far, and for a game where you're pretty much just walking around the entire time, this constant and unending feeling of dread and tension permeates, and it is great, because that's what a good horror game does when it comes down to it. You don't have a goal really in this game, other than to just merely wander around your surroundings and figure out where you are exactly, which is what literally anyone would do in this situation. The first level is the infamous office space that kickstarted the whole thing. It is the room that has, I quote, "the stink of old moist carpet, the madness of mono yellow, the endless background noise of fluorescent lights at maximum hum buzz, and approximately 600 million square miles of randomly segmented empty rooms to be trapped in. The feeling that you've been here already will come across you, over and over again. Doing that for many miles would drive anyone insane, or the realization that you may never get out would reach a breaking point within someone. The levels themselves are fairly large, and each time I've revisited them, there's always something that I've missed, even if it's the most minute and insignificant detail. In my second playthrough, I found a different room with a board showing a layout of what appeared to be for a shopping mall. Try not to make sense of any of this, by the way, because you will see a number of things like this within the game. And mind you, what the complex shows is not even a fraction in regards to how massive the Backrooms universe actually is, filled with infinite levels and various entities? Oh yeah, in this game, nothing really happens to you per se. In a lot of other horror games, there's generally a force or an entity of sorts pitted against you. Whether it would be monsters or killers, there's always something to fight against or something to hide from. But in the complex, you feel that something is stalking you the entire time. No matter which level you end up in, which can be accessed by finding an elevator. And even then, that same feeling consists of you being watched over and over again, but never really seeing what the entity is. We do, however, get a glimpse of the entity in one corridor, and that's when the anticipation of a coming danger begins. Beyond that, you continue exploring one elevator after another, one room after another. You find yourself in more uncanny and unusual levels that pretty much defy our perception of logic and reason. There's a sense of terror, curiosity, and morbid wonder that does occur in this game, as well as the universe of the Backrooms in general, where the possibilities are random but infinite. The complex provides a very small but expansive window into this universe, and we see it through all the way to the end of the game's experience. So how is the complex as a game? Well, there are a number of things I really like about it. For starters, the graphics. Upon looking at it, it has this great contrast of photorealistic texture filtered with a 90s found footage aesthetic. As of late, we've had lots of games, especially in the indie scene, that take more inspiration from PSX style graphics, case in point, Ultra Kill. It's good to get something with more visual flair for a change, while still having a retro vibe to it. The only other game I've seen with the same graphic style is September 1999, a 5-minute long horror game made by 98DMake, who is also the creator of OK Normal, as well as the DMake videos of other games. Now, to describe the game's graphics in another way, well, take a VHS tape dated sometime in the late 90s and apply a photorealistic looking photo, but take them both and apply it into a video game, make that the basis for the game's graphics, and well, this is what you get. Basically, it takes that same found footage aesthetic from September 1999, and the complex draws parallels with that same aesthetic, and I really like it here. The sound design and the ambience is also really effective in its execution as well. The varying footsteps, the contact of water, the muffling of your camera as you run, and the creepy breathing of something you never really get to see, it further enhances the nightmarish situation that the character is trapped in, someone that we don't get to know about. But it doesn't matter, because in this context, anyone else would be doing the exact same thing, wondering where they are, how they got here, and would be scurrying around in infinite nightmares, so to speak. The locations are varied and are based off of the source material that inspired this project. Anyone that closely follows the Backrooms universe or is familiar with the found footage videos that have cropped up over this past year alone will recognize these levels that you get to explore. There are a few other Backrooms games like Escape the Backrooms or Into the Backrooms, and they all have their strengths and weaknesses, but the Complex has been my favorite so far on the merit of its impressive visual and audio design, its photorealistic presentation filtered with 90s style found footage, its clever use of randomized structures and object placements that creates this dreamlike and uncanny world that the Complex is based off of, culminating in a well put together free horror experience that's better than some that I have played thus far. You can download it off of Steam and it doesn't take too long to beat, and also has a decent amount of replayability. The Backrooms has become one of the most well-recognized creepypastas as of late, and the Complex functions as a tribute to its existence, so to speak. Its recent success will no doubt inspire other developers to make something of the same spirit, but perhaps with more levels shown as well as other different game types. Creepypasta universes in general are a goldmine for potential creations of media and storytelling, expanding more upon what's already there. It's a goldmine for people that have aspirations for game development, story writing in general, or making films based in the established universe like we have already seen on YouTube. If you're looking for other Backrooms games as well, then I would recommend both Into the Backrooms and Escape the Backrooms like I have already mentioned. Both of them offer single player and multiplayer experiences where you can play with others. They also show most of the well-known entities as well as the other levels, and can be fun for those invested in the whole thing. There are many other creepypastas and urban legends out there worth exploring. The world and the internet can be wholesome, exciting, and wondrous, but it can also be chaotic, unsettling, uncanny, and terrifying. Thank you for watching.